The first time that my mother saw my father beat me, I was 8 weeks old. And from that, you can imagine the cascading abuse and experiences and kind of ownership of that I would take over the course of my life, and the places that I would find myself replaying that kind of relationship again and again and again until I divorced myself of it.
Most of us never learned how to train our brains, which is why most of us needlessly settle, struggle, and worse, suffer. My name is Chris Doris, and I want to make brain training mainstream. This is my series, Tough Talks, Conversations on Mental Toughness. I'm interviewing badasses from all walks of life on what mental toughness means to them and their unique approaches to strengthening their minds. Hey everybody, welcome back to Tough Talks, Conversations on Mental Toughness. I'm your host, Chris Doris, and before we get to our guest today, let's take care of our one housekeeping item, which is if you are not getting my daily dose mental toughness tips in 30 seconds or less delivered to your email inbox every morning at around 6 a.m. wherever you are on the planet, 365 days of the year. And if you're not getting notifications of my blog posts or getting my new blog posts, which come out every Tuesday, and if you're not getting notified of these new Tough Talks episodes, then which come out on every other Thursday, then please go to christopherdoris.com/lists, L-I-S-T-S, christopherdoris.com/lists, name, email, click, and you get all the goodies. So our guest today was introduced to me by a former Tough Talks guest, Meredith Bell. Thank you, Meredith, for this remarkable introduction. I appreciate you. And our guest today, her name is Dr. Bridget Cooper, or Dr. B for short. I want to read you her bio, but then I want to give you a little bit of more about her, which she doesn't spell out here. So she writes it in first person. I'm a cage rattler. I'm going to ask her to elaborate on that. Change agent, thought shifter, sculptor of human potential, with degrees and careers in human resource management, systems theory, counseling, and educational leadership. I have the experience, insight, techniques, and most importantly, the courage to take you from crisis mode and drama to responding with intention and calm. I'll give you the tools and create the perception shift you need to redefine problems and to find the power within you to address problems regardless of what someone else is doing. I want more for you. I want you to stop living smaller than you're capable of. I want to liberate you to live in your fullest potential. Where does this passion come from? A brutal appreciation of time. The finite amount that we have of it. Day after day, I see the squandering of time, not just through our smartphones. I mean the wasting of our potential, of our happiness, of our opportunities to leave this world better for having had us, of the legacy we leave on this planet, our unique footprint. What's this got to do with my story? I've lost friends to accidents and disease. My father died at 45. My mother and stepfather at 69 through medical mysteries, mishaps, and bad choices on my part. I've faced death several times in my relatively short life. I've seen people take themselves way too seriously and squander their success and peace of mind as a result. What did I learn? The only way to value our finite time is to live life large in your career and in your personal life, to refuse to settle for less than a life of abundance. For me, it's not about the money you earn. It's about the effect you make on others and the world. We're all going to die. There's no way out alive. What you do with the time you have here is what matters. Take risks. Live authentically. Be real. Find yourself. Share your gifts. Be vulnerable. Show compassion. Face challenges. Create peace. Be inspired. Do good work. You know where to find me. Peace, Dr. B. That's pretty cool. Now, what she doesn't say there is this woman has endured unthinkable abuse, like abuse of just about every kind. And she in this book, she's written 6 books, Little Landslides. She takes you through these stories, man. It's hardcore. It's hardcore. And in this book, this is the one we're going to talk with her a lot about today, her book, Pain Rebel, how we take our power back. You know, you're about to experience a human being who has endured like some unthinkable shit, right? And who has done the hard work of healing, like the real deep work, done the work to the point where now she herself is a healer. I've had limited contact with her prior to this interview. What I do know from the brief conversation we had and from her book is that she's not into like nice, lovely chats. She wants to. She brings it. Like she's practical. She calls herself a practical pain rebel, and she wants to give us gifts of how to heal, how to free ourselves from pain, how to create from pain. This is some powerful stuff. All right. Let's go find her. Dr. B, where you at? And here she is. Dr. B.
How are you, Chris?
Phenomenal. You know, I dressed appropriately today.
Oh, pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. Love it.
We're gonna get to that. We have to get to that. But I thought this is the perfect shirt for you.
That is the perfect shirt for me, of all the perfect shirts in the world.
And I could just like sit here and just like let the word pain be there.
Yeah, the pain just sits there. So pain rebel. I'll just be the rebel. You'll be the pain, and then we'll make that.
So
make that
yeah, work. we were gonna need to talk about this.
You have some yellow sticky notes in there, Chris. What is happening?
Well, you got a lot to say.
Thank you.
Okay, and a lot of it is very important. What's frustrating for me, unless it isn't, that's just a shitty interpretation. But what's challenging, we'll say, is that there's so much stuff that I want to talk with you about that we can't possibly get to it all and have this not be a 6-hour podcast.
So we're going to do a series. Is that what I heard you just say?
That was in there. Maybe that. Well, you got me. We got 6 books out in the world. You know, I told folks a little bit about you in the intro, but I didn't want to spoil it because your story's unreal. Your story's unreal.
Thank you.
Your story's unbelievable. That you're healthy, happy, sane, and serving is unreal. It's amazing.
All those things are debatable and on a spectrum, but I'll go with that. I'll go with that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you talk about crazy in your book, but in one of your books, probably in many of your books. But let's just start. Yeah. All right, a couple things. One, I know it's long, but if you know, what's the semi-condensed version, if there's even a possibility of doing that, of your story? Like, hey, Dr. B, what's your story?
So there are so many avenues to travel down, but since I think it gives the essence of why I am who I am, why I do what I do, is because I was born into a family that was, they ate dysfunctional for breakfast. It was a family of just raw abuse and neglect and addiction and mental illness. And what it gave me was a really strong appreciation for how much people are affected by painful beginnings and experiences, and how we transfer pain from one person, one family member, one generation to another. So I made it my life purpose to help people get a different relationship to themselves, to pain, so that they wouldn't transfer it. And I talk about it in my TED Talk. I talk about it in little landslides quite extensively about the upbringing. But people say, okay, what does that mean?
Little landslides, you just mentioned landslides. Just
yes, you. Yep, that's the book. Actually redesigning the cover, and I think can insert some photos in it because I got so many comments from people who read Little Landslides, because Little Landslides is my autobiography. Yeah. And I talk about my upbringing, and I talk about, kind of different episodes in my life from the first person. And so when people read it, they said, I wanted to see more pictures. I wanted to see you at those ages. I wanted to see your parents.
Wow.
And so subsequent to the book being published, I was actually able to secure the photos from my childhood and from my parents. So I'm going to re-release it and hope to put some photos in it, which will make I think that experience even more powerful.
Yeah.
To be able to see the images. So yeah, I think, the condensed version of, I think that's the high points. I think some of the little anecdotes, one of them I covered in my TED Talk, is that the first time that my mother saw my father beat me, I was 8 weeks old. And from that, you can imagine the cascading abuse and experiences and kind of ownership of that I would take over the course of my life, and the places that I would find myself replaying that kind of relationship again and again and again until I divorced myself of it.
Okay, that's an interesting way of putting it. And when was that? When did you divorce yourself?
I think that one of the final cuts was my own actual divorce, was saying, not this life. Like Elizabeth Gilbert has this framework of, I don't know what I'm looking for, but it's not this. And I had that same experience of, I don't know exactly where I'm headed, but it's not here. Like, this can't continue to be my story, where I continue to make myself smaller and more responsible for the treatment I'm receiving by other people. But it started in baby steps. I don't think I wish I had this magic wand where you could go from that kind of an experience and upbringing to, wave, 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 bewitched nose wiggle, and all of a sudden you're just better. I think you take a few steps forward, you slide a little, you take a few steps forward, you slide a little. And so my big shift, my big first transition, and I cover it in little landslides, is when I decided that if I was going to survive, I was going to need to cut my father out of my life. I was not going to be able to maintain that unhealthy relationship and get any health for myself. And so I did that, and it was raw and brutal and ugly and awkward and painful, but it was necessary. Yeah.
Yeah, you were abused in every conceivable way.
Correct.
Starting at the very beginning, right?
Correct.
8 weeks, right?
Yeah, sure.
All the way through.
Yep.
You consider yourself healed?
I consider that is ripe. And I've been asked that question so many times, and it is ripe with, I think, an expectation that we ever are. So there are wounds and there are scars, and I have no wounds. I have scars.
What's that mean?
It means that a wound is something that, if you think about it, when you've had one, if someone touches a wound or something gets in it, it is widened, it is deepened, it is infected, it gets worse and worse, right? If somebody touches a scar, there's evidence that you were injured, that you once had a wound, but they can't hurt you in it, right? It doesn't have a vulnerability in and of itself.
Oh, wow.
So I am healed to the point of having scars, but I know where my scars are. And I know what some of my vulnerabilities have been in the past, and I am in awareness of them, right? Like, I still have those tender places where I go, oh yeah, been there, done that. Ooh, it's back, right? And an awareness about that, that history and the thread that is continued through time.
That's an amazing distinction. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
How would you answer this question? What is your big message? What is the thing that you most want humans to know?
I want people to know the beauty and potential that they were placed here to share and to live in. That whatever has happened to them, whatever they have done, that they were born and destined for more than a limited, pained existence. That whatever it was that was foisted upon them, whatever it was that they then did with that pain, that they can set it down and they can live something more majestic and beautiful and awe-inspiring as they were meant to do.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah. And I'm there, I call myself a cage rattler. I'm there to rattle the cage that people are trapped in, that they forget, like the Hotel California song, that they've had the key all along to get out. And I want to shake them into that awakening so that they can get out of that cage and remove the obstacles that are holding them back from living that full, loving, beautiful, tragic, painful, amazing life. Like all of those things are part of that journey, and I want people to be able to live in that fullness. A lot like you, just I think with different tactics and lenses.
Yeah, you beat me to the punch. I was going to ask you why you refer to yourself as a cage rattler, but
yeah,
there it is. That's cool.
I get some looks when I say that, and
makes perfect sense. Like the cage is metaphorical for your perception that you're stuck in pain, the cage of pain cage.
Yeah, or like history, or that's just how I am, or that's where I came from, or let me tell you. And this is I put this in Pain Rebel, that we get
watch
these
your mouth,
things.
right?
Yeah, well, we have these what I call pain resumes, which we're like, hang on, hold up.
Yeah.
So we meet someone, whether it's romantic or friendship or whatever, and we're like, hold up, let me tell you why I behave the way I behave, why I have the limitations I have, why I can't do the thing you're asking me to do, why I'm going to mess this up. And we go back and we do this pain resume of like, first this happened, first my dad, then my mom, then my sister, then my brother, then my uncle, then my, whoever it is, right? And we tell these stories and they create this reason for why we got to this point. But that only goes so far, because then where are you going to go from here? Right? What are you going to take those experiences? If it's truly a resume, it's a list of experiences and skills, knowledges, and abilities. What are you going to do with those things to create a new experience, a new job, a new title going forward? Right? Or how could you even look? Yeah. Or how could
what are you going to do with this? What are you going to do with all that? What are you going to do with this story? What are you going to do with your history? Right?
How are you going to take that and actually make it into something that actually serves you? And part of that is going back and looking at it and thinking, like I did. I remember being in my, you asked me about my pivot and like when I started that healing journey. When I decided to kick my dad out of my life, I went into deep therapy. Like I walked into this therapist's office. I was like, I don't think you're ready for this, but here you go. Here's all my stuff. And every time every time I told her a new story, she was like, holy shit, like enough. Like there cannot be more. And I'd be like, oh yes, there is. And I kept handing her these things. And I remember sitting in her office one day and I said to her, what I'm so grateful for is that all of these experiences are going to allow me to help other people, because I have such a depth of not only empathy, but perception and like now coping skills and healing skills. I'm going to be able to change lives. And she was like, no, like you are not grateful for this experience. And I'm like, screw you. Yes, I am. So I think that's part of what we have to like look at and reckon with, is using our pain resume, not to excuse and allow and like lock us into this place we are, but actually to say, excuse my language, fuck that. Like I am not going to be in that place because of what other people did to me, because then I'm carrying their pain further than they did. Like my parents are dead. Why would I do that?
You could very easily create a very strong argument for why you're a victim.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about
I was
victim for a second, because
victimized.
you're using creator language right now. But yeah, right. You were victimized as hell.
Sure. Right.
Okay. Are you a victim?
I was victimized.
Yes.
I am not a victim.
Oh,
There is a distinction.
I'm glad I asked that question. Bring it.
So being victimized
Yeah.
is the experience of having been the victim in that moment and experience. There are plenty of people who have either been beaten, raped, manipulated, cheated, stolen from, whatever, like list them out, all the places that you have been a victim, you have been victimized in that moment.
Yeah.
What creates a victim is taking that role that you played in that moment because it was the role that you were given, and carrying that into each subsequent experience and orientation toward the world that perpetuates you being locked in that place. It's like being comfortable, being uncomfortable, and that is not me. And that is not the people that I work with, because that is what if talking about cage rattler, people get locked into that place of feeling like they are a victim. Nope. That's a temporal space of being that you must move out of. Now, I'm saying all these things, throwing privilege out of the conversation, because when we start talking privilege and we start talking other experiences that are not in my context, these things don't apply in the same way. Right? Because people can be in situations that they don't have volition over. Right. So it gets dicey there. I just want to put that shout out there, so I don't sound as ignorant as it might come across. That, hey, if you just change your idea about something, you can just not be victimized anymore. Well, sometimes no, but you can change the mindset to an extent to give you the most amount of power in any situation. And having spoken with, and I have spoken with a number of Holocaust survivors over the years. And that is one thing that has been impressed upon me by them, is that they got to choose how they lived and loved inside their heads. So there was still choice, even in that space. There was still choice to decide in it. And then when they got out, to either leave it there or to take it with them. And they decided differently than a victim decides.
Well, yeah. And what do victims decide?
They decide that perpetually they are at the mercy of outside experiences and influences, or past trauma that now excuses every last thing that they may or may not do in their lives.
Why would anyone decide that?
Because it's comfortable.
Really? That sounds horrible.
It's comfortable because it's familiar.
Okay.
So it's why people go back and again and again and again to either the same or familiar abusive situations, is because they know their script there. They're like, I know my script. I know my role. Like, I know the lines. I can predict the next thing that's going to happen because I'm believing these things. And I talk about it in Pain Rebel, that it's part of what I call our contracts, is that early on, we either get messages about ourselves or messages about the world that we see through observation or experience that are true. And we decide that that's how the world works. That's how we are. That's how we fit in it. And therefore, there's certainty in that. There's clarity in that. We know that script, and we might not even know that it's operating in there, but we know it, like we've experienced it. And not until someone like me stops them and says, hold up. That's an old contract. That's something you signed before you had the ability, the authority, the knowledge, the awareness to be able to sign anything that would predict the rest of your life. You need to back up and examine if that's a contract that you'd sign today, given what that old contract does with your life, and then rip it up, burn that old contract, and create a new one. But a lot of people are under a victim contract because it's what they saw, they were conditioned, they were agreeable to for whatever survival reasons. And then they just carry that with them because they haven't examined their life to know that they have a choice to move away from that.
Yeah. So one of your mantras is, where did I put it? Awareness.
Is it awareness?
Yeah. What? Awareness equals choice. Choice equals power.
Yeah. When you become aware, when you wake up, you get out of the sleepwalking that most of us are doing in our lives. And you wake up to the idea that things are going on around and in you that either serve you or don't. You then have to wake up to the idea that you have choices, that you always have choices. And when you identify what those choices are and you make those intentionally with conviction, whether it's a shitty choice or a really abundant open choice, that's how you increase your personal power, not your power over other people, your power from within. My kids used to get so mad at me because I'd say, you always have choice. Well, what if the robber has a gun to your head? Well, I say, that's the example of a shitty choice, but you still have a choice. And when you can see that even in that situation, because when anybody ever says to me, I didn't have a choice, it's like nails on a chalkboard to me, because there's not any experience.
Oh, man.
Yeah, there is not any experience where you do not have a choice. Again, limited or open, but you always have a choice. And becoming aware of those choices allows you to step into making that choice and go, yep, I made that choice. I didn't have great options, but I made the best choice of the choices available to me. Then we start owning and taking responsibility for our journey instead of being in that victim mindset of saying, it's somebody else doing it to me. I didn't have a choice. I was forced into it. I had to do it. No. There is nothing you have to do. And my kid, I swear to you, will say, but you have to breathe. Nope. You don't have to do that either.
You don't have to.
You don't. You can make a choice that makes that stop. You always, and that's a shitty choice. Don't ever make that choice. But you have a choice. You always have a choice. And it's elevating that to conscious awareness that provides you with the power that you need to build the life that you were destined and, given here.
That's beautiful.
That opportunity. Like I used to have kids in my, I used to teach CCD, which is Catholic education for little ones. And one of the kids came to me one day and said, Miss B, because I had them call me that because I hated being Mrs. Cooper, even when I was. And they said, Miss B, what's heaven like? And I said, well, listen, I mean, your parents are really responsible for your, religious evolution here. But since you asked me, I'm going to give you an adult perspective that may or may not ring true with your parents. You're going to want to go home and ask them the same question. But my take is there's a whole lot of chocolate and puppies, first off, like legit, like there is no way that heaven does not have an abundance of those two things. Separated, of course, because chocolate and puppies don't go together, but there are both. And when you get there, you're asked 3 questions. And I put this in the book.
Yeah, you don't even need me here.
Oh no, I totally need you here.
You don't, because you're answering all the questions I haven't even asked yet. I was just going to ask you.
Oh my God! All right, listen. Can I do this one and then I'm going to shut up and I'm just
I'm just going to take a break. You just keep going.
Please don't. Please don't. You're awesome, and I need you here. You're just inspiring me to share. So I'm just going with it.
Bring it.
So
3 questions.
And 3 questions. You're asked 3 questions. First, did you have fun?
Yay.
Second, did you use the gifts I gave you to the best of your ability? And third, did you try to leave every situation and person better than you found them? And if you answer yes to those 3 questions, come on in.
You get the chocolate and the puppies.
Yeah. It doesn't matter whether you were CEO or a garbage collector. It doesn't matter if you had a house on the hill or a shack on the beach. It doesn't matter if you had your retirement fully funded or you were scraping by. The other stuff is all window dressing. It doesn't matter if you're a size 14 or a size 2. It only matters if you can answer those 3 questions.
Somewhere you I don't remember which book it was, but you mentioned the story about you took an abnormal psychology class,
Oh,
and after class, you asked the professor, "Hey, if someone, hypothetically speaking,
mm,
if a little baby girl was abused terribly at an age where you couldn't remember it, can you heal from that?" Is that the right? Is that like an accurate
yep,
articulation of the question? Yeah.
yep.
What they say?
He said, absolutely not. That child would be forever broken, is basically the essence of his answer to me. And in typical rebel fashion, I said, fuck that.
Did you like right away say fuck that? Or did you walk away and go, oh man, I'm baked?
I walked away in this like fog of, wow, it really is as bad and as hard as it feels. Like it was validating. Like at one level, like everybody gets pissed when they hear about that professor and they want to track him down. But for me, I thought it was incredibly validating that he was saying to me, that is big. Like if he had said to me, oh yeah, they'd be fine. No problem. I think I actually would have felt worse.
Oh, wow.
Because I would have felt like my struggle wasn't proportionate to the experience.
Yeah.
But when he said that and he made it like tragic and impenetrable and, unconceivable that I would ever be better, he gave me something to drive toward while also acknowledging that I was trying to overcome something that was seen as being impossible. And that there was some dynamic tension with that I feel like, it's in every Marvel movie, right? Of like, I got this, I can overcome this, give me the shield, give me the wings, give me the cape, and I can do this thing. Yeah. So don't hate that guy.
Well, okay. Let's jump to this.
Yeah. What's that?
The F word.
Oh, the F word.
The most powerful F word. Let's give people a second to take a guess. Wrong.
Wrong. Because I've already said that word.
We've already
dropped.
We've dropped some bombs. So, what is the most powerful F word?
It is. So first, I'm going to tell you a little backstory to this. So when I was preparing to do my TEDx talk back in early 2018, I was floating the idea of titles around with some of my colleagues and clients and saying what I was going to call the talk. And I unilaterally, almost everyone that I said it to had this cringe reaction and said, if you call it that, I'll never watch it. And it was how rage saved me and forgiveness redeemed me. And it was because I used the word forgiveness. Forgiveness for a lot of people, probably a number of your listeners, or maybe even the vast majority of your listeners, is riddled with responsibility that seems imbalanced. Like somehow you did this bad thing to me, so now I have to do some heavy lifting and I have to give you something back. I have to somehow assage you of guilt. I have to remove some responsibility or weight that's on you, and I have to give you something. Like that seems like bullshit. And I know in my family, it was used as this currency, that if I didn't give forgiveness, then I was unloving. I was not understanding. I was not compassionate. I was cold. I was hard. I was stuck up. I was, whatever that was, because I owed it to them, if I loved them, to give them my forgiveness. And to me, and to a lot of people, what forgiveness means is this exoneration. Like it didn't happen. It wasn't that bad. It's okay. I got over it, right? It didn't really harm me. So I forgive you. Or two, that you can come back to me, that you can have access, open, unfettered access to me again, because I am going to remove the block of unforgiveness that I've put between us. And what I learned in going through my own process with my parents, with myself, with my other abusers, is that the anger that I felt, that rage that I felt that was holding them back from me, that like not giving them forgiveness, was actually toxic to me. You know, my third suicide attempt at the age of 16, something was poisoning me from the inside out. And what I figured out was that in rage's place, in that angry place, in that holding back the forgiveness place, I could remove that and I could put boundaries up instead. I could make a decision that regardless of me giving them forgiveness, of saying, I no longer am going to hold that rage to keep us separated. I am instead going to hold a decision that you don't get to have access to me because you can't be trusted with my heart, with my body, with my spirit, because you are toxic and in pain and you have not done the necessary work to heal. So you don't get to have access to me. But I could remove the rage and the anger so that I didn't have to live with that holding me back from them anymore. I could simply say, as Robert Brault says, it's giving up the fantasy of being able to make a change to an unchangeable past, right? I botched the quote, but it's basically that there is no changing the past.
Yes.
So all I'm going to do from here forward is drop it, put it down, put that weight down, and move forward with my life, knowing that I can still make decisions about people not coming close to me if they are too dangerous to do so.
Life becomes easier when we learn to accept the apology we never got.
Yes.
Robert who?
Robert Brault.
I just wrote Robert and a question mark. I don't remember where I even got that. Brault. So
Brault, yeah.
Forgiveness and boundaries.
Mm-hmm. Forgiveness and boundaries.
Giving up the fantasy of being able to rewrite your unchangeable past.
Yes. Mm-hmm. You can't. I was just talking with a client about it this morning. She was discussing how she was like, you know, angry about this and resentful about this. And I said, you can't change it. It happened. And the more that you carry it into the present, the more you drag that thing with you, you continue to hurt yourself. Somebody asked me one time in a room full, like it was a conference full of women. We were talking about little landslides. I was talking about my story. And again, I'm going to drop the other F-bomb, the other F-bomb is one of the women said, how can you not hold on to that? Like, how did you like let that go? And I said, because I said, fuck that. They took my past. They don't get my present, and they sure as hell don't get my future. If I take that with me and I carry it and I drag it along and I collect all these other pains because I'm still stuck in that pain, then they took that, they take now, and they take then. Like every time zone that I have in my life, they take it all. And fuck that. They don't get that. I will not give that up. It was already taken. I can't go back and do anything about that, but I sure as hell can do something about today and tomorrow.
Yeah. So this is like divine selfishness is what I'm hearing you describe.
Divine selfishness. Yes.
Right.
Because if I don't take care of the soul and the spirit and the gifts that I was given, then I am the one doing harm. I'm the one breaking my own soul apart. I'm the one limiting the greatness that I could give in this world. I am encumbering myself. They aren't doing it to me anymore. They did it. It's if I take it with me in the future that I continue to experience it and punish myself and try to punish them for it. They're not punished. Most of them are dead, or they're eating, hard candies on the couch. Like they don't care, but I do. Like,
right.
What?
Right.
It wasn't mine. They handed me their pain. Why am I still holding on to it?
Right. Not mine.
No, I can validate it that it hurt, but I can also put it down so it doesn't cause me more harm and other people more harm. My parents did not come to me as evil. They came to me as broken. They came to me as burdened.
What was the second one? You said broken?
Burdened and broken.
Burdened.
burdened and broken.
Yeah. You're reminded.
So of course they were going to hurt me. What else were they going to do?
You ever heard of this book?
Oh, the Mastery of Love.
He also wrote the Four Agreements. I think he's more famous for the Four Agreements, but this one, the big takeaway I got from this one is what you're preaching right now, which is that nobody really wants to hurt anybody else. The only reason we do is because of our own unhealed hurt. If I can remember that, then it's a lot easier for me to not take shit personally and then do the divine selfish forgiveness.
So I have said something to my children for a long time. They have a very unhealthy dad, emotionally, cosmically. And I have been saying to them since a young age, without bashing him, without even mentioning his name in this phrase, but said, I want you girls to always remember that hurt people hurt people. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So if you come across someone who hurts you intentionally, they come at you with fire and, swords and, whatever it is, emotionally or physically, you are witnessing a person in pain. It's not about not holding them accountable. It's not about letting them close to you. It's not about, creating distance. It's about recognizing that it's not about you. That you have to let them have their pain without letting their pain become yours. You need to see that distinctly, that they are demonstrating their level of pain. When we are in pain, we give pain. That's what we do, because there's only so much, like a game of hot potato. I'm holding a hot potato. I gotta do something with it. You want to take it? You want to take it? Because I got to get it out of my hand. It's burning me. And when we do that, when we take that potato from them, and I do this illustration in my TED Talk with my amazingly beautiful and artistic stick figures, is showing that we take the fire from someone else and we hold it and we're like, oh, it's mine. I guess I'm going to take this pain and I'm going to make it my own. But it was theirs.
That's right.
They could only give it to us if they had it to begin with.
Yeah, that's the distinction: pain rebel versus pain collector, right?
Correct.
So the cover art.
Yeah.
What's going on here?
That's a voodoo. It's a little voodoo doll with a little heart. She's the pain rebel, and she is that's her heart.
Yeah.
And she is not allowing those little pins to come into her. She is getting them coming at her, and she's like, she's saying, fuck that. Fuck that. That's my little pain rebel on the front cover.
I'm gonna get your shirt that says fuck that.
Honest to God, that would be the perfect shirt for me, Chris. Yeah.
No,
I mean, I don't know if my daughters would appreciate me walking around with a shirt that said fuck that. They'd probably try to steal it, actually, but yeah, it's a good one. What do you got there? Fuck that. There you go.
To go have that shirt made for you.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah. It's really empowering to decide that is not going to be allowed in my space. And a lot of us get really caught up in this, like, oh, that'd be selfish, whatever. And I think to myself, I want you to go back and I want you to look at a little picture of yourself when you were like a small child, your adorable little crazy haircut that your mom gave you with the, stupid bangs, or the bowl that was around your head, whatever it is, right? Or you gave yourself, you decided you didn't want bangs anymore. Go back and look at that picture and tell that child, you don't deserve greatness. You don't deserve amazing opportunities. You don't deserve love, joy, pleasure, any of it. Look at that child and say that. You can't. Because you're looking at the innocence and the purity that you were put here with until the world got to you. You let it in, you invited it in, you held it inside, you did all sorts of crazy stuff with it. And then you started living your life in these, somewhat painful, destructive ways. Well, go back to that kid and tell that kid what she or he deserves and live that existence, because that's who you are. You're still in there. I mean, I don't care what we dress ourselves up. We're still trying to just figure it out, right? We're still trying to figure out how to get the kickball and how not to do Red Rover and, whatever. Like, we're still in that space in our hearts. We're like all insulated, trying to protect that little kid, that beautiful little spirit.
Wow, that's perfect. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes to all that. Thank you, Dr. B. You're a badass. You're one badass. Seriously.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. Thank you for all this, for all the many bombs. You just dropped 1 million bombs. You just carpet bombed us with wisdom. So where should people go to connect with you, to follow you?
So they can go to my website, drbridgetcooper.com. They can find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, same way, Dr. Bridget Cooper, Bridget Cooper. And they can check me out on Amazon. I've got Pain Rebel on Audible right now. And for your guests who have listened to this episode, if they reach out to me and just let me know, I can give them a code for a free Audible download. I'm not sure how long they have before those expire, so they got to get on it. But I do have individual.
What do they do? How do they get?
They go to drbridgetcooper.com and go email me at Bridget@drbridgetcooper.com. They can click on a link and just send me a message and let me know that hey, I heard on Chris Doris's podcast. I heard you, and I'll give them the code. It's just individual codes, or I just give you the code, but there's not one code. There's individual codes. So.
And what they get? But when they get the code, then they put it in what is it that they get? The
Audible. They put it in. They go through Amazon. Yep. They can go through Amazon.com, look up Pain Rebel, and they'll have a link to either, grab it on Audible, grab it on,
that's hard nice copy. Of you. That's super cool. Thank you for doing that.
And then I have the companion guide. Thank you. And then I've got the companion guide because I have a lot of exercises. As you know, from going through Pain Rebel, I don't just say things, I push you to do things. So I have a companion guide with all the exercises that's downloadable off my website. So if you do get the audio version, you can download that. So you're not kept out of all those exercises that the people get the hard copy get.
Yes, you are the practical rebel.
Hey, I'm in it to win it. And the winning it means you need to be able to implement the things that I'm saying. They're not just hyperbole and like nice, beautiful statements that get you all motivated for a minute. And then you go home and you're like, what did she say again? No. I want you to put that stuff into action.
That's so perfect. So let's just recap that last little bit before we bounce. So people can download, go through that again, please.
Go to Amazon.com. You can look up Pain Rebel. You'll find my book. Click on it.
Yep.
You can either order it on Kindle, hard copy, or if you want Audible, you can click on Audible. If you've emailed me before you click on Audible, let me know. You can email me through my website or at Bridget@drbridgetcooper.com. And I will provide you with a code that when you click on that Audible link, you can download Pain Rebel for free and head back on over to my website and download anytime. You can do it now. The free workbook, basically, of all the exercises from Pain Rebel right there on my website.
That's so clutch. That's awesome.
Thanks.
Yeah, I'm going to put that link.
Thanks. Yeah, I hope they reach out. I hope you guys reach out to me. I mean, ask me a question. You and I have bantered back and forth on email a few times. And anytime anybody's got a question, if they're a listener of yours, they're a friend of mine.
Oh, that is so cool. Look at her, folks, huh? Dr. B. Thanks so much.
Oh, thank you, Chris. It was a pleasure.
There you go. That is the definition of a creator. Dr. B, I think I mentioned it in the interview, has every excuse imaginable, right, to play victim, and she chooses not to. Choice. We always have choices. Man, how many wisdom bombs did she drop? Well, she explained the cage rattler. I'm glad, because I was confused about that. That's pretty cool. Hurt people. When we're in pain, we give pain. So, yeah, look her up, drbridgetcooper.com. Let's get that workbook. I want to get that. And the coupon or the code for the Audible version of Pain Rebel. That's a generous offer for her. So reach out to her and go get your code so you can get your copy of her book. And I really loved the whole beauty of rage and forgiveness with boundaries piece. Good stuff. Thanks, Dr. B, for that. And thank you guys for tuning in as always. And until next time, great miracles.